This geography revision video focuses on flooding in an MEDC. It's our case study for the River Valency in Boscastle in Cornwall. On the screen you can see a number of key facts about the case study. We can see it happened on the 16th of August 2004. There were 6 inches of heavy rainfall in just 4 hours and there wasn't a control system in place. This meant that £500 million worth of damage was caused to buildings, 4 footbridges were washed away and the visitor centre was destroyed. As a result of this, £4.6 million was spent on a flood defence scheme and this incorporated widening and deepening the river channel and putting a new pumping system in place to take the water out of the river when it got too full and take it somewhere else. Have a look at these facts, see how many you can remember. On the next slide there are some key pointers to help you learn these points. Okay, so this revision video is going to have a look at the causes, effects and responses to the Boscastle flood. It's located on the north coast of Cornwall. We're going to look at the physical causes, the human causes, the social, economic and environmental effects, so a good way to remember this is SEEC. And we're going to have a look at how sustainable the responses to the flood were. So the physical causes to flooding then. Well, there was a lot of rain. We know from the first slide that there was 6 inches of rain in 4 hours. The ground was already saturated from rain over the previous few days, which meant no more water was able to infiltrate, so it increased the amount of surface runoff. And there was very steep valley sides, which meant that the surface runoff travelled very quickly down into the river. Human causes, so humans, we didn't respond in any way, we weren't responsible. It was a freak event. Global warming increases the extreme weather events, so possibly with increased pollution, we could contribute in that way. There wasn't a flood control system in place and the sewer and the drain system were old and partially blocked. There was also a very old bridge that was very low and it was going over the river, and it meant that when the trees were taken off the hillsides and put into the river, they got stuck underneath the bridge which blocked it, and that meant the water came up over the bridge. So social, economic and environmental effects then. We had 25 business properties destroyed, that's economical. We had £500 million worth of damage caused to buildings, 4 footbridges washed away, the visitor centre destroyed, tourism was reduced because of the poor reputation of the area, which meant that the local economy struggled. Pavements and gardens were damaged by the weight of the flood water, and it cost a lot of stress and anxiety to the people who lived there. Insurance companies also paid out an estimate of £20 million to repair the damaged property. So reducing the flood risk, well, they put in a £4.6 million flood defence scheme in 2008, which consisted of a new pumping station, widening of the river channel and moving the buildings so they were set back from the river and they wouldn't be flooded as quickly in the future. There's also a flood defence wall built in the village. So how sustainable were these responses? Well, we rescued quite a lot of people from the floods by helicopter. There was about 100 people rescued by helicopter. This is not a sustainable response because it's not something that can keep happening in the long term over and over again. It's very expensive. Widening the river channel. On one hand, it is sustainable because it means the river is going to have a greater capacity to hold more water. However, and we've got more water in there, we're just going to have to widen and deepen the river again in the future if we have another flood, so it's not a long-term effect. Planting trees on the hillside above the river is sustainable, it's natural, and it also means that they're going to be able to intercept and infiltrate the water, reducing the amount of surface runoff. Restricting buildings along the side of the river, that is sustainable because it means we've got a little bit of a floodplain at either side of the river which is supposed to flood, and it will enable the ground to be able to soak up the water rather than it going into the houses. Paying insurance money to people who have lost buildings and possessions is not sustainable, is not cost effective, and it can't keep happening in the future. Insurance companies will start to make premiums very high so that they don't have to pay out as much money. Unblocking the river of debris upstream, it will help, but it will not be sustainable in the long term because it's something that's going to have to be done over and over again. And finally, moving the low bridges will be sustainable. It has been replaced with a much higher bridge, which means that it's unlikely anything will get trapped underneath it, causing the flood. These are the key facts from the beginning of this PowerPoint. See how many of them you can remember. If you can't remember them, you need to go back and you need to watch this video again.